dear Father. And we give you all praise. We pray that you forgive us our sins, our Father. Pray that you be with us in the words we're about to speak today and the deliberations we're about to have. And we pray that you guide the utterances of our mouth and we will speak things that may be edified to our bodies and all those who hear these words. Thank you, our Father in heaven, for the assurance that has been prayed. Hallelujah.
What a marvelous love, what a glorious love, He has done so very much for me. What a marvelous love, what a glorious, He is doing marvelous things for me. Hallelujah. What a marvelous love, what a glorious love, He has done so very much for me. Hallelujah. What a marvelous love, what a glory, He is doing marvelous things for me. Hallelujah. What a marvelous love. Bless His holy
Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day Elohim ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth, when they were created in the day that Yahweh Elohim made the earth and the heavens. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahweh Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yahweh Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostril the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became into four heads. The name of the first is Pison, that is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasses the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. And it is which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. And Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be left alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. And out of the garden, the ground, Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the earth, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. And Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahweh Elohim had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall the man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So we'll now have the song before the message.
Come, Holy Spirit, I need you. Come, sweet Spirit, I pray. Come in your strength and your power.
pray that you accept our praise offering. Thank you for the word I'm about to share. Dear Father, we pray that your Holy Spirit come and be with us even as we share this your word and we speak about your goodness in our lives. We thank you, our Father in heaven, for your mercies and your kindness towards us. Thank you for this word we're about to share. We thank you for the impact it will have on our lives. Thank you, our Father in heaven. Be with us in everything that we say. And Yasha is our name, we pray. Hallelujah. You will be seated. So today's sermon is going to be a continuation of the very first one that we did. And the very first one in this series we did was, Yahweh's food laws. And, I think we're going to modify this part 2 to be simply being healthy, yes? Or being of good health. Being of good health, yes? What the scripture has to say about this. Being of good health. What the scripture has to say about this. And you see, I'd like to take us to the very beginning because, everything, there's a story to everything and everything has a beginning, right? Now, the Bible reading we read today was from Genesis chapter 2 and we read the whole chapter. I'd like us to revisit verses 15 to 17. Genesis chapter 2 from verses 15 to 17.
And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die.
He says, verse 17 says that, But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day you eat of it, dying you shall die. The original Hebrew says, dying you shall die. In other words, as soon as you eat of that fruit, the process of death takes effect in your flesh. Yes? And that is why every man alive today dies. No matter what. Yes? And it's only, and that's people say that, we have everlasting life. No man has everlasting life. Yes? People believe that the soul is everlasting, that it will never die. The Bible, the same scripture says that all men, is upon unto man to die. We will be resurrected by the creator of the heavens and the earth. If he could create us from dust, resurrecting us should not be a problem at all. So we know that in the future, in the time in the future, yes, as described by 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 53, we know that there will become a time when the first resurrection will take effect, and those that died in desire will be risen. Now, we also know that at the end of the 1,000-year millennial reign, that there's going to be a second resurrection where all men will be risen and face the white throne of judgment. Now, all of these things we're talking about here speak to the fact that, man was created for a purpose, yes? And he was created by a being. I was listening to, a teaching online recently about, it was a teaching, but it was actually an interview of Muhammad Ali. And, they were asking him that, what's he going to do when he retires? And he was talking about the fact that he was talking about that, he was asking them whether they believe in a creator. And many of them said no. And then he now said that this glass you're seeing here, that was this glass, did it form by itself like this in nature? And they answered no. And what if I told you that this glass you're seeing here grew by itself and came to be by itself? And everybody said it's impossible. And I said, then how would you think that you could, have, been created all on your own, or you happened, by chance? Obviously, there is a creator. So once we've all established that indeed there is a creator of the heavens and the earth, yes, the next thing we begin to ask ourselves is this: what did that creator create us for? I mean, the Bible says, in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 13, it says, fear man, fear Yahweh, and keep his commandments, for this is the purpose for man. So indeed, that was the purpose for which man was created. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So we're created for a purpose to fear Yahweh and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all men. Now, if indeed we were created to fear Yahweh and keep his commandments, yes, and this is the duty of all men, this is the overarching purpose for which we were created. Now, if a creator creates something, it has given that thing a purpose, yes, for which that thing was created. Of course, the instructions for the maintenance of that thing, I mean, we as men, when we create things, we usually have what is called a manual to govern anybody that wants to use that thing, or even to govern the thing that is being used. Yes? So if you buy a new blending machine today, and you bring your new blender, you bring it home and you plug it in, of course you read instructions to see how that blender works. And of course there's an instruction manual in the carton in which the blender came. The instruction manual for man, yes, is the Bible. As we can see from Genesis, you see the account in which man was created, the whole earth was created in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. Today, indeed, marks that day, because in the book of Genesis, he talked about how, Yahweh talked about how, that day that he created, on the 7th day he rested, and he set apart that day as a set apart day, a holy day. And we can see much later from Genesis in the book of Exodus, when he was giving his commandments to Moses, that day again was mentioned. Hallelujah. So we can see very strong consistencies in the scriptures. We also know from science that most living things have a 7-day cycle. Most living things have a 7-day cycle. 7 indeed is a, they say 7 is a magic number. But I don't like to use the word magic. 7 indeed, yes, is a number or the sequence in which the Creator created the heavens and the earth and all things within. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Now, this sermon today speaks very specifically about health. Now, we know that we've established that we have a Creator. The Creator created us for a purpose, which is to fear Him and keep His commandments. Now, is either I can start reviewing those commandments one after to see how staying in good health, the instructions for staying in good health are there, or I can just go straight to talking about good health. Because the commandments indeed are plenty. And there's some things that the scriptures used to say about the commandments and things about living in good health. I think we should begin to actually revisit and see these scriptures. So let's open up to Jeremiah chapter 30 from verse 12 to 15. Jeremiah chapter 30 from verse 12 to 15.
For thus said Yahweh, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, and thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicine. All the lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased. Why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable, for the multitude of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto thee.
Hallelujah. So we've established here in these verses that affliction was put on the flesh because of iniquity, because of sins. Yes? So the scripture speaks to the fact that if you do not, what is sin? Exactly. 1 John chapter 3, verse 4 says that sin indeed is the transgression of the law. Now, what is the law? The law is a series of things. In short, sin is the transgression of the Torah. In short, the Torah consists of the statutes, commandments, and the judgments of the laws of Yahweh. Hallelujah. Now, here very carefully it says that they performed iniquities, yes? And their sins had increased, and because of that, he did those things to them. And you see that they had afflictions of the flesh because of sin. Hallelujah. Now, I'll also read from Proverbs chapter 4, from verse 20 to 22, to buttress more on this. Proverbs chapter 4, from verse 20 to 22, and I read, "My son, give attention to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them depart from your eyes. Keep them in the midst of your heart. For they are life to those who find them, and health to all their flesh." So here we can see very clearly that adhering to the words of Yahweh, adhering to his commandments, yes, is life to those who find them, and health to all their flesh. Hallelujah. So we know that in the book of 1 Corinthians, I said that we'll get rid of this flesh and we'll take on the heavenly bodies, have you? So this is not talking about a time in the future. It's talking about now. Yes? That we should not depart, yes, from his words, and that we should incline our ears to his sayings, to the words of scriptures. That there will be life to us, because if we obey the Lord and obey the commandments of Yahweh, and indeed our obedience, we will reap everlasting life. So he said there will be life to them that find them, and health to all thy flesh. So what is he saying? This is saying that we would have good health of flesh if we obey his commandments. And then let's also read from Ephesians chapter 6, from verse 1 to 3. Ephesians chapter 6, from verse 1 to 3. It says here, "Children, obey your parents in Yahweh, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you, and you may live long on the earth." I like to state here it says, "Children, obey your parents in Yahweh." In other words, if your parents are not in Yahweh, yes, and they're telling you to do what you should not do, you need to honor them, but you mustn't obey if they're telling you to do what is contrary to word of Yahweh. So it says here that it may be well with you and you may live long, yes, on the earth. And also, Psalm 38 verse 1 to 5 says, "O Yahweh, do not rebuke me in your wrath, nor chasten me in your hot displeasure. For your arrows pierce me deeply, and your hand presses me down. There is no soundness in my flesh because of your anger, nor any health in my bones because of my sin." So I'm building a story here, I'm building a case. And we're going very carefully, from precept to precept, establishing the fact that one of the major causes, yes, for afflictions of the flesh and illnesses is because of sin. And what is sin? Sin is the transgression of the Torah. Hallelujah. So when you sin in different forms of sin, the transgression of the Torah will reap corruption in your flesh. Hallelujah. Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 40 says, "You shall therefore keep his statutes and his commandments, which I command you today, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which Yahweh your mighty one is giving you for all time." So we must keep his commandments. Deuteronomy chapter 30 verse 19, yes, to 31, it says, "I call on heaven and earth as witness today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Therefore choose life, that both you and your descendants may live, that you may love Yahweh your mighty one, and that you may obey his voice, and that you may cling to him, for he is your life and the length of your days, and that you may dwell in the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham and to Jacob, to give them." Hallelujah. So you can see here that indeed we must obey the commandments. And obeying the commandments, yes, we have good flesh. And we have good life. Yes? And I think we should just read Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 20 to... From verse 20, let's just read. Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 20. He says, "Yahweh will send on you cursing, confusion, and rebuke in all that you set your hand to do, until you are destroyed, until you perish quickly, because of the wickedness of your doings, in which you have forsaken me. Yahweh will make the plague cling to you until he has consumed you from the land which you are going to possess. Yahweh will strike you with consumption and with fear, with inflammation and severe burning fever, with the sword, with scorching and with mildew. They shall pursue you until you perish." So we can see that there are curses that came about as a result of sin. Yes? So we're trying to establish now, we're doing like a talk correlation analysis between the scriptures, what the scripture says about obeying the commandments and sin. The same Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 27 to 28, it says, "Yahweh will strike you with the balls of Egypt, with tumors, with the scab, and with the itch, from which you cannot be healed. Yahweh will strike you with madness and blindness and confusion of heart." Now the reason why we're highlighting all these things is because of what? Why did all these curses come upon the children of Israel? Because they disobeyed his commandments. So we can establish now from different accounts that disobedience of the commandments amounted to curses and afflictions of the flesh, or sickness, as we call it today. Yes? And apart from the fact that, there are different things, different kinds of sicknesses that used to come about in the time of old. Like for instance, for the sin of disrespect, yes? Leprosy was what was given. If you open up to Numbers chapter 12, from verse 1 to 15, you see where Miriam disrespected, Moses, and she was stricken with leprosy. Elisha's servant too, Gehazi, in 2 Chronicles chapter 26, from verse 16 to 21, was struck also with leprosy. Uzziah, in 2 Chronicles chapter 26, verse 19, was also struck with leprosy. So for disrespecting this, the affliction of leprosy was usually meted out in the Bible. We can see this in different places. Yes? Now, for partaking of Messiah unworthily, yes? Like for instance, the Corinthian assembly, it was sickness and death, instant death. Like for instance, what about the ones that they said they should go and sell the things and they came and they eat some for themselves? It was death. Yes? For having the eyes of adultery, Abimelech, his wife, was barren. Yes? And then for those that partake in sexual immorality and idolatry, Jezebel was struck with sickness and her children died as a result. David also, when he took Uriah's wife Bathsheba, what was the punishment that was meted out to him? The child that she was pregnant with was killed. He died. So there was death, child death. So there are some things that bring about child death. Some people go around and sleep around and maybe their wives don't have children. They're wondering what is going on. Yes? Sexual immorality brings about sickness upon our children and can even cause their death. They will not live long. This is what the scripture is saying. I'm seeing different examples. I'm pulling out different examples in the scripture that actually speaks to this. Disease in the feet, Asa, in 1 Kings chapter 15, fear and anxiety was, the thing that, afflicted, Asa. And we also saw that through prideful leadership, people that are, in leadership positions, a particular kind of sickness also came to them. And that sickness was ailments in the digestive tract. We can see this in King Jehoram in 1 Kings chapter 15. Herod also in Acts chapter 12 from verse 21-24. And also for Antiochus Epiphanes in 2 Maccabees chapter 9 verse 45. That's in the book of the Apocryphals. He also was stricken with, digestive tract ailments. So these were the sicknesses that were afflicted on the people of, Israel for, disobeying the commandments. And you see, like we said, the manual that Yahweh gave us was, the instructions to guide us in the things that we're meant to eat, the things we're meant to do. And if we break these things or we infringe on these things, there are punishments that will come to us. And sickness is one of them. And the Messiah also, in the account of the Messiah in the book of Matthew, also said one time that, go, your sins are forgiven. And then they not asked him, how can you forgive sins? He said, is it easy? Is it not easier for me to say your sins are forgiven than for you to say you are healed? Because both of them, you can see, he established a very strong relationship between sin and sickness. Hallelujah. So the Messiah, said that. And of course, in the book of Genesis, when we're created, and we can see that so many things are causing, sicknesses today. The book of Genesis actually talk about, the fact that, he made, animals and all, and, he made the land, all green plants and things that we should eat and all that. And, he also gave instructions as to the things that we're meant to eat in his food laws. And this we can see also in the book of Genesis, in different accounts in the book of Genesis, on the things that we're meant to eat. In Genesis chapter 9 and in different other places. Yes, that was good for us to eat. And we see that when men break these things, the afflictions of the flesh are the things that happen. And there are many blessings in the Bible that you have good health when you keep my commandments that you may be prosperous and have good health. What is he talking about? Is he saying that just by keeping the commandments that you have good health? Yes. But he's also saying that in keeping the commandments, you'll be doing the things that the commandments have said you should do. You will not be eating the things that the commandments said we should not eat. So the last sermon, we went through the food laws, we spoke about them, we dissected them. And I think from now, I would actually start talking about, what science, has said about, Yahweh's food and the things that we're meant to eat and how those things affect us. Because, you see, the Bible was written, thousands of years ago. Science or some group of, biologists or food scientists that went to the university recently went and with all the science and all, they were able to discover something that the Bible is talking about for thousands of years. Science is just discovering it now. Hallelujah. So the book of Genesis chapter 9 verse 3 says, every moving thing that liveth shall be food for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. So we know that not every herb bears seed, and not every tree bears fruit. Yes? So it's important that we only, consume, the seeds, the greens that bear fruit. If it does not bear fruit, we should not eat. In short, if the green, yes, does not photosynthesize, then we should not be eating it. Hallelujah. So I think we should start, breaking down the various, the various vegetation that we're allowed to eat. And the lawful herbs, we're meant to eat, most of them are what we currently eat already. Like your tubers, like carrots, potatoes, corn, wheat, fruits, nuts, garlic, onions, and spices. All these are permissible and things that we're meant to eat according to, Yahweh's laws. Yes? And you find out that what he said was that, the food that groweth on the land. We're not meant to eat the food that grows in the water and in the sea. And you find out that even rice, that spends most of its early life submerged in water and the rest of its life above water, yes, it's not as nutritious as wheat, barley, and other grains that grow completely above water. But rice is completely lawful. So the Bible says, we can eat rice. Hallelujah. Another unlawful herb that we're meant not to eat is mushrooms. In short, mushrooms are fungi. And we eat a lot of mushrooms these days. If you go to ShopRite, if you go to Domino's Pizza, and most of the people that eat pizza, there's always mushroom in the things that we eat. So if you're going to order, pizza, in Domino's or something, tell them not to put pepperoni. Pepperoni is made of pork. And tell them not to put mushrooms for you. You can eat chicken pizza, you can eat many other things. But please, don't eat mushrooms because it's fungi. Yes? And I'll tell you this. So mushrooms are fungi. They are spore-spreading scavengers of the plant world. You don't see mushrooms. They're not green.
They grow on dead.
Exactly. They grow on dead and decaying plants or wood. Yes? They are fungus. Yes? And they don't apply to the criteria. So they're never green. They don't photosynthesize. Yes? So they're like vampires of the plant world. We shouldn't be eating things like that. They're like vultures or vampires of the plant world. Yes? And, there's so many accounts of mushrooms and, mushroom experts. And usually it's the mushroom experts that say, even for those that eat mushrooms, the one that you can eat and the one that you cannot eat. And most of them end up dying off. Because sometimes they cannot tell the difference between mushrooms. And many of them are extremely poisonous. Extremely poisonous. Yes? So most of those experts, sometimes they go to the field, they plant, they pick those mushrooms, they cook them and they eat and they die. So that, mushroom tasting business is not a, it's not a good business. It's not safe. So we need to avoid eating those mushrooms. Seaweed is another thing. And one of the reasons why seaweed is not good for us is because, the Bible says we should not eat, eat the things, the green that grows on the land. Why would you want to eat seaweed off of the sea, a weed out of the sea? Yes? So they're not herbs of the sea. Yes? And so we must avoid them. And so most of the things that we're meant to to eat, like yeast is another thing that we can eat. But if you eat it raw, it's not good for you to eat yeast raw. But dead yeast, is a source of nutrients for the body. So you can eat yeast. I mean, that's what we eat in our bread. But of course, there are certain instructions that we must take out all leavening from our house and during certain feasts days that Yahweh has appointed for us to observe. Like the feast of unleavened bread. We must take out all the feasts, all the yeast, which is 11. So now let's move into flesh, the flesh that we're meant to eat. And the book of Leviticus chapter 11 verse 3 speaks about, the kind of food that we must eat. And it says, Whatsoever parted the hoof, that's the leg, the feet. Whatsoever parted the hoof and is cloven footed and chewed the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. In other words, we're meant to eat most things like you have today, like your cow, so most meats, are good, for eating. Yes? The only common meat that is bad for eating is pork. And of course, rabbits. Yes? We're not meant to eat pork. Pork has been clearly forbidden. We have temples defiled, just by spreading the fat of pork. So pork is so bad that we're not meant to even touch the flesh. We're not meant to even touch the carcass of pork. Yes? So the things we're meant to eat, are, like beef, lamb, goats, and the milk of all these animals are also lawful. Antelope, bison, buffalo, elks, gazelle, giraffe, moose, and reindeer are also lawful. We can eat all those things. If you see giraffe running like this, just bring out your catapult.
I think it's the milk.
Yes.
The milk of giraffe.
Yes. So everything is all lawful. So the criteria for lawful meat, is that the animal must split the hoof and chew the cud. So among the things that we eat, we must also eat. We must not eat. Sorry, among the things that we must not eat, we must not eat the things that anything that that don't have hooves. Those things are indeed unlawful. This rules out for us to eat reptiles, rodents, anything with paws, apes, cats, dogs, snakes, turtles are all unlawful meats, eaten in Asia. In Africa, in some places they eat cheetah, elephants, hippopotamus, lion, rhinoceros. Sometimes, in the hinterlands in Africa, they hunt those things for meat. Yes? And, in the West, some eat, bear, opossum, raccoon, rattlesnakes, and squirrels. All these things are all unlawful meats. So we must be very, careful about the things that we eat. And you see, like I mentioned, we must avoid eating pork because pork indeed is a toxic animal. Yes? So a pig's body is structured in such a way that no amount of clean diet or clean environment will make it clean. It is not even healthy to touch a pig because of the way the pig does not exit his waste. Normal animal digestive system, yes, takes about 24 hours for food to pass through. They have different stomachs. They have a small intestine, they have a large intestine, they have all sorts of digestive that food must pass through to eliminate all the toxins and passes out. And it takes between 12 and 24 hours, for most animals to. Pigs, they get rid of their food in 4 hours. So anything they eat, they just digest it. And it enters their body. It does not go through there, they have only one stomach. So pork is indeed very bad, for us to eat. So pork is used to make bacon. So when you eat bacon, you're eating pork. Sausages is used to make sausages. Even those chicken sausages, those transparent things that they used to hold the sausage in place together. It's pork they used to do those things. So even when you have chicken sausage or you have beef sausage, that thing that holds the sausage that you see them use, I think they're tied together. That thing is made out of pork. So you must avoid sausages. Unless you see halal, all those maybe like halal sausage or something, and all those ones, they know that yes, they're not a shred of pork in it. Yes? Pepperoni pizza. Ham is another name for pork. Huh? So ham indeed is pork. Yes? And almost all meals in the Chinese restaurants. Yes? We that love Chinese, we used to love eating Chinese. Almost all meals in Chinese restaurants indeed have some form of pork in them. Yes? And most of all Chinese foods are forbidden. So we must not, eat human flesh as well. cannibalism is not allowed. Must not eat blood. Yes. And even the flying fowls that are meant to eat. We can eat doves, pigeons, and quails. Yes. But we must not eat duck or goose or swan. So we must be very careful. We must not eat, and we must not eat the eggs of all unlawful birds. So the birds that are lawful we can eat. So all those duck, egg, kanyawo that they sell in the ghost and all that, we must not eat those things. So those are the eggs. Of course, you can eat the fowl egg because the fowl is
The common egg that we have, right?
yes, but not the duck egg. People sell duck eggs. You must not eat those ones. And of course, seafood. The scripture says in Leviticus chapter 11, verse 10, it says, "And all that have fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you." So we must avoid eating those things and they don't have fins and scales in the water. Yes? So the law says that only water creatures with fins and scales may be eaten. So this leaves the more commonly eaten fish, this leaves the more commonly fish like salmon, your lingcod, albacore, tuna, trout, bass, pike, sardines, tilapia, all those things are all lawful to eat. So the ones that we can also eat. We can also eat the eggs, which are known as caviar. But we must not eat, yes, halibut, eulachon, yes, some kinds of tuna are also not good for us to eat. Some kinds of cod too, the ones that don't have scales. Some of them actually have been known to urinate. Some of them have been known to urinate through their skin. We're not meant to eat them. Catfish is another one we're not to eat. We're not meant to eat. Sturgeon, swordfish, some kinds of flying fish and sailfish. We're not meant to eat those as well. Crayfish, lobsters, and all kinds of fishes are known as the bottom feeders of the ocean. Yes? They feed on dead animals and impurities and are designed to clean the sea. So by the time you see them fishing in that, when you're driving on Third Mainland Bridge, you see them throwing fish, throwing nets into the sea to catch crayfish and all that they usually sell. Also, you'll also find out that these crayfish are being, caught in that sea. The same places where you see all those tankers, where they offload, sewage into those sea. So the crayfish and all other things, they eat all those things in the sea. They're the scavengers of the sea. Your crayfish, your lobsters, your shrimps, and many kinds of fishes, they're the ones that eat dead bodies in the sea. You want to ask a question?
What about periwinkle?
Periwinkle. That's what you cannot eat that.
Snail.
You can't eat all those things. Same thing as snail. So these things we will not eat. We must not eat. Now, I need to lay emphasis on catfish because catfish is something that is a delicacy here. Most people eat catfish. I mean, if you're going along that Lekki road, you see one giant statue of a catfish. You show that we eat catfish here. Yeah. So catfish indeed is very, very bad for the human being. First of all, catfish has high levels of mercury in it. The more you eat catfish, you fall sick. Yes? And catfish has a very high unbalanced ratio of omega-6 fatty acids to omega-3 fatty acids. Yes? And can increase your risk of getting blood clots, arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, and some cancers. So catfish has the potential to actually cause cancer. So you must avoid eating catfish. So nutritionists also say that catfish is loaded with bad fats and high cholesterol that encourage clotting of the blood, yes, and may lead to cardiac arrest Thrombosis, that's DVT, deep vein thrombosis. And in some cases, heart attacks. Also, they contain so much oil that you can almost taste it when you're eating it. Yes? Fish generally contains oil, but catfish, has oils in the fish and even in the skin. Yes? And this is what makes it so oily and unhealthy. And the Bible also talks about us not eating the fat of animals. Yes? So fat is indeed not good for us. I was discussing with my wife the other day, and she was talking about even when we boil meat. Sometimes we pour the whole meat stock into the rice. You want to make jollof rice, you want to make fried rice. Ideally, we should let those meat stock, let it go saturate, let it be chilled. And then you now remove that thick layer, that thick oily layer, and throw it away. Because, the omega-6, content in certain, in meat, and the cholesterol levels in those oils are not healthy in any way at all. I actually have a chart here that shows different compositions of oils. And you can see that the most healthy oils are actually coconut oil to use in cooking your one's food. Yeah? Coconut oil has, 7% of omega-9 fatty acids, which the body naturally generates from both omega-6 and omega-3 oils found in food. Omega-6 and omega-3 oils are essential oils for the body, while omega-9 oils are, oils that the body itself generates. So coconut oil has, 7% of it, omega-7 oil. And then only 2% of it is omega-6 oil. And then you have 91% of it as, saturated fat, which is okay for us. Yeah? Butter also has, a high level of omega-9 oil, which is good. Palm oil too is actually better. However, palm oil has, some omega-6 fatty acid in it. Yes? About 9%. But that's still better compared to, things like your canola oil and many other oils. Olive oil is also very good, in that we can eat olive oil. But the point I'm trying to raise is that animal oils are not good because many of them have high fat. And the Bible says we should not eat the fat of animals. So we must be careful about what we eat. But apart from food in general, we must also be concerned about the fact that if you harbor things in your heart, the Bible talks about the fact that giving us laws, so you should love. If you have joy in your heart, if you have joy in your heart, it says you shall be prosperous and have good health. Yes? Proverbs chapter 17, verse 22 says, a merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. And I repeat, a merry heart does good like medicine. That's Proverbs chapter 17, verse 22. A merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. So the broken spirit dries the bones. And I have an extract, from The Effects of Joy on One's Health by one Dr. Lee S. Burke. A preventive care specialist and psychoneuroimmunology researcher at Loma Linda University School of Allied Health and Medicine. Yes? Along with his colleagues, were the first to establish that laughter helps optimize the hormones in the endocrine system, including decreasing the levels of cortisol and epinephrine, which leads to stress reduction. They have also shown that laughter has a positive effect on modulating components of the immune system, including increased production of antibodies and activation of the body's protective cells, including T cells and especially natural killer cells, killing activity of tumor cells, enhancing your mood, decreases stress hormones, enhances immune activity, lowers bad cholesterol and systolic blood pressure, and raises good cholesterol. You can see the effect of having, they say, it'll give you fullness of joy. When you have faith in Yahweh, you worry about nothing. When you have trust in Him, when you obey His commandments, He will give you health, and your joy shall be full. When your joy is full, you can see T cells are those cells in your body. It helps with the production of T cells and productive cells in your body. T cells are cells in your body that when cancerous cells start to come up in your body, T cells attach themselves to those cancerous cells and destroy them. After destroying them, they move to the next cell again and destroy. Those are good cells. Our immune system, that are part of our immune system that help to fight ailments in our body. And those things, are further, enhanced, by us having fullness of joy. I mean, we know that when you worry so much, what happens to you? You have high blood pressure, I mean?
Yeah.
Yes? It's not just only food that causes it. When you eat the wrong food too, it causes high blood pressure. When you worry a lot, you don't sleep. When you don't sleep, what happens? High BP. High BP leads to stroke and heart attack and all that, and you're gone. Yeah? So let me quote, one Christian, Armstrong, who has so many degrees. He says, our bone marrow produces blood cells, yes, called red blood cells, platelets, and white blood cells. White blood cells, named lymphocytes, neutrophils, and monocytes, fight against invading bacteria, viruses, or fungi to help destroy infection. Each of these cells differs in appearance. Eosinophils and basophils, white blood cells, respond to allergens that can invade our bodies. Yes? So you can see here the scriptures are talking about the fact that, a merry heart, makes a cheerful countenance. But by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. And when the spirit is broken, who can sustain you? Proverbs chapter 18, verse 14 says, the spirit of man will sustain him in sickness, but who can bear a broken spirit? And as I just read, Proverbs chapter 15, verse 13 says, a merry heart makes a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. While Proverbs chapter 18, again, verse 14, says, the spirit of man will sustain him in sickness, but who can bear a broken heart? So even when you're sick and your cheerful countenance and all, your cheerful countenance will your body will start to respond to your mood. By the time you start to have faith in Yahweh, automatically your faith will make you healed. So much so that when the Messiah was walking around, people say, your faith has made you healed. And forgiveness of sins also makes you heal. Hallelujah. So hormonal reactions to stress is tied to diseases. Researchers say stress and depression that send emergency hormones flowing into the bloodstream may cause brittle bones in women, infection, and even cancer. So stress can cause cancer in women. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So a natural fight or flight reflex that once gave ancient humans the speed and endurance to escape primitive danger is triggered daily in many modern people, keeping the hormones at a constant hyper-readiness, experts say. Even some forms of depression bring on similar hormonal states. So we must be very careful about how we allow things to bother us. He said, you need fullness of joy. You worry not. The disciples in the Acts, they were faced with persecution. And guess what? They were skipping like children, happy that they bore persecution because of Yahweh. So when you face persecution, rejoice. Persecution for your sake, rejoice. And do not let it bother your countenance. Be joyous in all things, and you shall have good health. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So, Proverbs chapter 15, verse 4 says, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. And also in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 18, it says, there is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise promotes health. Hallelujah. So we can see, according to the American, Psychological Association, they said that stress causes migraine and tension headaches. It's also the cause of a variety of musculoskeletal conditions. It causes asthma attacks, panic attacks, high blood pressure and hypertension, heart attacks, stroke, diabetes, heartburn and acid reflux and vomiting. Yes? So the effect of stress on our health, when you don't trust in Yahweh and you don't obey His commandments and do the right things, yes? Apart from the food that we're eating. You see, statistics say that 43% of all adults suffer adverse health effects from stress. 75% to 90% of all doctors' office visits are for stress-related ailments and complaints. That's 75% to 90%. Now, visit the hospital. It's all related, directly or indirectly, to stress. So stress can play a part in problems such as headaches, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, skin conditions, asthma, arthritis, depression and anxiety. So the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, declared stress as a hazard of the workplace. In short, they've even said that people that work late hours, their work is actually a toxic work because it causes health problems. So if you have a job where it causes you to sleep less, that your job is toxic, according to the Occupational Health and Safety Administration. So the American industry spends billions of naira in looking after its people. So we must remain healthy and live a good and healthy life by obeying Yahweh's commandments. Yes, and we must when you obey His commandments, to give us fullness of joy. So the joy that comes from obeying His commandments and from having trust in Him and putting our hope on the promise of the life to come. Indeed, is one that will take us to the promised land. Also, bitterness is another thing that we must watch out for. You see, when you have anger in your heart, anger is like cancer, or you hold grudges against people. The mere act of holding a grudge, it depreciates your health. Yes. So one Dr. Everett, from Washington, from Virginia Commonwealth, says that chronic unforgiveness causes stress. Every time people think of their transgressor, their body responds. Decreasing your forgiveness cuts down your health risks. Now, if you can forgive, that can actually strengthen your immune system. The Bible says if you forgive, we should have love. You can imagine if we have love to all our brothers, and we have joy in our heart, and you have love, and you love as the scripture says, what will happen to you? You'll be prosperous and you have good health. Because you don't have any grudges in your heart against anybody. You are loving your brother, you have good intention towards everybody. You will be at peace. You will have joy in your heart. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So, unforgiveness is classified in medical books as a disease. Hallelujah. According to one Dr. Stephen Standiford, Chief of Surgery at the Cancer Treatment Center of America, he says, refusing to forgive makes people sick and keeps them that way. With that in mind, forgiveness therapy is now being used to help treat diseases such as cancer. It's important to treat emotional wounds or disorders because they really can hinder someone's reaction to the treatment, even someone's willingness to pursue treatment. At Yale University, yes, one of the Ivy League universities, Dr. Bernie Siegel collected 57 very well documented cases of angry people who came down with cancer. Can you see where there are even science is now tying down anger to cancer? So they sound alike, they rhyme. So they go together, anger and cancer. He says, and when they decided that anger and depression were not helping anything, they became loving, kind, caring, and let go of all anger. And guess what? Their cancer started to shrink. This was the study named The Connection Between Anger and Cancer by Dr. Paul Hyder of Yale University. You can check it for yourself, you can research it for yourself. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So if you open up to the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 10, you can see that the heart knows its own bitterness. Sometimes, people say that I'm not angry, I'm not this, but you need to, when you live according to the word of the scriptures, you need to purge your heart. You say, I'm not angry, or you're harboring things, or you're planning, or you're plotting for that person. Book of Proverbs says, the heart knows its own bitterness. Yes? And the stranger does not share in his joy. So if you love your brother as yourself, you will not have any bitterness in your heart. Hallelujah. So we must keep bitterness away from us. We must indeed love our brothers and ourselves. And guess what? Once you love your brother as yourself, what are you doing? You are fulfilling the law. For love is the fulfillment of the law. And when you love, you will prosper and you have good health. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Any questions? Shall we rise and pray? Our Father in heaven, we thank you for the word that we shared today. We thank you for the insights that we derived from your word. We know that it's only through obedience that it shall be well with us. For indeed we're created to fear you and to keep your commandments. And this is the purpose of all men. Therefore, there are so many things that are wrong with the world today. Even the mere fact that, we have to have sedentary work where we sit down. I know that, your plan for us was to, look after the earth, till the earth and have work that will keep us healthy. We pray, dear Father, to such a time that you may keep us in good health. And that, through our faith and through the joy that we have in you, our joy may continue to increase. That we may have good health and all the ailments that we have gotten as a result of our disobedience, that through the forgiveness of our sins, that you will wash us clean of these. We thank you, our Father, for in Yeshua Messiah's name we have prayed. Hallelujah.
Bind us together, yeah, bind us together with love that cannot be broken. Bind us together, yeah, bind us together with, bind us together with love. Let there be love shed amongst us. Let there be love in our hearts. May now your love fill this place. Blessed be the